So first, welcome everybody. Appreciate you being here and enjoying this new room that we have together here. A couple quick things for you first, in case you need to know. Bathroom is outside, so if you go out through the doors you came through and make a left, they've got newly renovated restrooms right outside. If you can remember during the presentation for the rest of the afternoon, if you could silence your phones and any other electronic devices. And if you have to take a phone call, I'd appreciate it if you could go ahead and take it also outside. That would help because this is our busy time of year, as we're going to know when we get into the program here for a lot of people coming in filing for Homestead. So we'd appreciate that also. So again, welcome everybody. My name is Gary Mascoris. I'm the Chief Deputy for the Osceola County Property Appraiser's Office. I am not Katrina Scarborough. Unfortunately, she could not be here today. She sends her apologies. She would be very excited to see the sports theme. Actually, yesterday we had an in-service day for our employees, and our theme was sports also. So everybody was in their sports attire yesterday. So like I said, it would be something that she would be kind of excited to see if she was here, and she does send her apologies today. So as we get started, just a quick overview of our office. Our mission is to ensure the fair and equitable assessment of properties within our county while applying the guidelines set forth by the Florida Department of Revenue and the Florida statutes. We're committed to providing a standard of excellence in customer service that exceeds expectations of our visitors. We do get quite a few customer feedback surveys, and all of our customer service representatives go out of their way to make sure that they're serving the people that come in. The duties of the Osceola County Property Appraiser's Office, and this is the duties of all property appraisers in the state, is to determine the fair market value of all property within our county boundaries. We maintain property ownership records and parcel ownership maps. We administer tax exemptions, which is what you're here for today, and those include homestead, seniors, veterans, any kind of disability exemptions. And we ensure fairness and transparency in our valuations. So every August, those of you that own property in either Osceola County or in the state, you get what's called a trim notice, or it's called a proposed notice of proposed property taxes. And at that time, if you have any issues with your value, you can go to the Value Adjustment Board, which is the VAB. Also, all of our information is on our website, property-appraiser.org. Information is updated every day, so you can see a working value of any property that you're looking for. The authority that our office gets its information from, it is an elected official and it is established by the Florida Constitution. It comes from the Florida statutes, and we have oversight from the Florida Department of Revenue. We are not a division of the Board of County Commissioners. We maintain our independence from them so that there is no influence from outside county offices on the values in our office. And we do not set tax rates or special assessments. We set values. If you have problems with or issues or questions about any of the tax amounts that are on your bills, you would contact the various taxing authorities. They are the ones that tax you. And we do not collect taxes. Go next door. And credentials for Katrina. The CFA, Certified Florida Appraiser, is the certification that comes from being an elected official, but there are also certain classes that she has to take in order to receive that certification and maintain that certification. The other two, the Certified Cadastralist and the Master Cadastralist, she has been that for a number of years. When Katrina first started in the office, she was in what we called mapping then, is land records now. That is kind of her first love, and if you've got a legal description problem, that's who you go to, and she is certified in both of those. So the tax roll cycle, just to go over this briefly, our assessment date is January 1st. So it's like taking a picture of the county. What's there we assess, what's not there we'll go on for the next year. March 1st is the exemptions deadline, and we'll go into more detail on that further in the presentation. June 1st is what we call best estimates. So what we do is we try to have some kind of idea of what values are for the property and get those values to the various municipalities so they can start their budgeting. So we get that to them by June 1st. In July, we have our finalized values that we send to the Department of Revenue. In mid-August, again, the trim notices or the notice of proposed property taxes goes out, and that's going to show you the value of your home or your property that you own. If you are a homeowner and you have homestead exemption or any exemptions, you would see all of those on there. 25 days after the trims go out, that's the time that you have, if you have a question about your value, you don't agree with what the value is on there, that you can file a petition with the Value Adjustment Board. So the deadline to file a petition with the Value Adjustment Board is 25 days after the trims go out. So trims this year going out August 14th. The deadline to file for petition with the Value Adjustment Board is September 8th for this year. So once we get through all of the trim and VAB, October 1st is when we finalize the tax roll and get the tax roll certified. It's also when internally we roll over to the new year and begin processing information for the 2027 tax year or future year tax years. Bills go out November 1st, and the information that's going to be on that bill still is reflective of your valuation date of January 1st. And then in January, we start over and we go over again. And I've been doing this for 35 years, and it's the same thing over and over every year. And if you have any questions as we're going through, more than welcome to go ahead and take them as we go forward. So just some quick facts about Osceola County. We became the 40th county in the state in 1887. The population threw me off today because I thought we were still in the 400s, but population in 2026 is almost 510,000. It's amazing the growth that we're experiencing here. We are one of the largest counties geographically in 1,500 square miles. And we have the oldest active courthouse still in use in the state. And if you get a chance to get over there, go view it. It's a beautiful courthouse, and they still run proceedings out of there. So a few stats from the property appraiser's office as of 2025. Total county value, market value, was $83.7 billion. That generated estimated $887 million in tax revenue. We saw an increase in market value overall of 4.68%, and that's a combination of increase in values due to just an increase in values and new construction. We have 86,460 homestead parcels and 210,878 parcels countywide. And all of that information is the certified data that went to the Florida Department of Revenue. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to our exemptions director, Allison Martin. She is a expert in the fields of exemptions. If you have any questions, she'd be happy to go ahead and answer those for you. So Allison?
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Now we're going to get into the exciting stuff, right? What everybody's been waiting for. It's not working, Shane.
The big one.
Oh, the big one. Okay, so as Gary talked earlier about the tax roll cycle, for exemptions, our big deadline by statute is March 1st. So every person that has purchased a property last year in 2025 has up until March 1st of this year to file their exemptions to qualify for the 2026 tax bill. To go over the exemption and why you should file and how you can file is, one, it lowers your property taxes. It can lower the first year up to $750 off the tax bill. There's additional exemptions you may also qualify for once you've qualified for the exemption. And then the biggest part of the savings is what everyone knows as the Save Our Homes cap benefit. What this does is it places a 3% cap on the assessed value that your taxes are based on. So the first year you file homestead and you're approved, that's your starting value. Every year after that, as long as there's no new construction, any type of additions or additional use to the property that's not residential homestead use, that value, excuse me, cannot increase any more than 3% a year, no matter what the market reflects. So over time, this helps keep your tax burden much lower than if it was rising with the market. The cap and the exemption can only be applied to the percentage of ownership that you use or that you have on the property. So how you take title to the property can affect the amount of exemption and the amount of cap that you can receive. So if someone takes title as a tenants in common ownership and there's 2 people, they each have a 50% ownership. Only one of them is using it as their exemption residence, their permanent residence. By law, the exemption can only be applied to that proportionate interest of ownership that they have. So you cannot have exemption or cap on property that you do not have the ownership to. I did it again. Sorry. Okay. Who qualifies? U.S. citizens, permanent residents, which are our green card holders. There is also additional qualifications that can be met now due to some case law, which is if you have a dependent minor child or you're in the process of asylum. What do you need when you file your exemption? You need a valid Florida driver's license with the updated address to the property that you are filing on. You need your social security number. Other things that will be required is date of birth, previous addresses, as far as where you might have had exemptions before, where you filed your income tax returns. And the most common ways to file is either online on our website or in person in our office. We do community events as well, where we try to get into different places throughout the county to help our residents have more options to make it easier for them to file the applications. And to go further in, if you're not a U.S. citizen and you're not a green card holder, the different ways you can qualify is if you have minor children that are U.S. citizens, so they would have to be born here, and there is additional information you would have to provide for that application. We would need to have proof that the child is a U.S. citizen by their birth certificates, social security, so if they're of school age, school records. If they are here through PRUCAL, which is the pending asylum, then they would have to provide their asylum application documents that have the biometric stamp. To e-file on our website, this is the page when you go to our website, property-appraiser.org. You would click on the e-file homestead button and it's going to bring you to this login page. They would just have to register their address and then it starts the application process for them. It's about a 7 to 15 minute process. It's very easy. And we currently have close to about 70% of our applications done online. And this is just a checklist of things that you can have to reference as far as, who's listed on the deed, because you can't have homestead unless your ownership and use of the property as of January 1st. Apply, this is more of a checklist like for you as a new owner. Apply for your homestead and portability if you had homestead on a previous property in Florida. Do you qualify for additional exemptions? There are email confirmations to those that provide their email addresses to our office. And you will also get confirmation of your exemptions that have been approved, that you've applied for through our website and annually on your notice of proposed taxes.
Can I ask you?
Sure, absolutely.
Can you tell me a little bit about the portability when you're switching homestead?
Yes, we are going to get into that more in depth. That's always the big question. No problem. Actually, here we go. Understanding portability. This is our next topic, which is always the big one. So this is a constitutional amendment that was approved for additional tax relief for property owners who live in Florida, had homestead, and move to another location anywhere in Florida. It gives the homeowners the ability to what we call port the Save Our Homes cap benefit from the previous property that you had homestead on to your new property. Now, there is time limits to apply. There are limits to the amount of portability you can bring forward. And it depends on if you are upsizing or downsizing. So the maximum amount that you can port from one property to another is $500,000. The time limit is 3 years. Now, please keep in mind it's not 3 years from the time that they sold the previous property or moved from the previous property. It's tax roll cycle years. So it goes as of January 1st. So example would be, I sold my property August of 2025. Okay. I sold my property in August of 2025, we'll say. So my first January 1st is January of 2026. I have 3 years to establish my new homestead in order to bring this to my new property. So because I sold in 25, I have 26, 27, and 28 in order to apply and establish my new homestead. I don't have until August to make a 3-year complete calendar cycle. It's tax year cycles. Yes, ma'am.
How about if you end up moving within the 3 years again?
You can file for portability as many times as you want. But keep in mind, if you upsize or downsize, that affects the amount of portability that you're able to bring to the new home. So an example of that, we'll go back to this slide, is our existing homestead exemption is $400,000 is our market value. Our assessed value is $250,000. Our difference between those two values is $150,000. That is what our Save Our Homes cap is, and that is what you're able to port to your new property. Now, if we upsize, we get a bigger house that has a greater value of, we'll say $600,000 as in the example. Our portability benefit is $150,000, so we take that off of the top of that value. Your new assessed value is then $450,000. And then from there, your exemption comes off for homestead and your new taxable is $400,000. So due to being able to bring that portability over, we went from having to pay taxes on $600,000 in value to $400,000 in value. Now, if it's a downsize, you can only take a portion of that portability. So you can't have more savings than you have value in the property. So in our example, we've downsized and now we have a $200,000 home. Now there is like I said, there's a percentage ratio that you can bring forward. And in this example, it's going to be $75,000 of that $150,000. That gives us a new assessed value of $125,000 less our homestead, and then we have a taxable of $75,000. So it does depend. You can take and move as many times as you want, but you have to keep in mind, if you downgrade at any point, it is going to lessen the amount of portability you're able to bring with you. And this is just some examples, some features that you can see on our website that would show you ways of seeing your homestead and portability. So we have it broke down where you have your market. Portability, SOH, would be your Save Our Homes cap, the assessed value, the exemptions, and then the taxable value. So we do try to break it down so you're able to see those different figures on the website to know what you're receiving as far as your cap benefit, your exemptions versus the value of your property. Exemptions, again, are residency based. So not only do you have to have ownership, you have to have use of the property as your permanent residence. There are additional exemptions that you could qualify for seniors. Our seniors that are 65 or older who have certain income limits could qualify for additional exemptions. There is also what we refer to as a super senior, and this is for our seniors who are also limited income but have lived in their home for 25 years or greater. We have widowers, blind. We have total and permanent exemptions for disabled people. Veterans, disabled veterans exemptions for service-connected disabled veterans, surviving spouses of those disabled veterans. There is a total and permanent disabled veteran exemption, which eliminates their taxes, their ad valorem taxes, so they are tax exempt. They're just responsible for the non-ad valorem assessment fees. There are exemptions for deployed military. So our active duty military personnel who are sent overseas for certain operations that are, they're in the statute, so they look at them every year, that are recognized by the state. They're able to get an exemption for those days that they were deployed away from their home. Combat-related disability exemption. So for our combat veterans, there are exemptions out there as well that can give them additional savings depending on the percentage of their disability. Again, there are majority of these disabled veteran exemptions go to the surviving spouse. So if the spouse receives them previously, they do go to the surviving spouse automatically. Additional exemptions for spouses of first responders. These are for our first responders who unfortunately lose their lives in the line of duty. These exemptions help their spouses in order to not have the burden or responsibility of paying the property taxes. And you can visit our website again for all of the different exemptions and qualifications that are available through the state. There is also something pretty new. This is the second year of the prorated refund for total and permanent veterans. There are very specific requirements that they put in statute in order for a veteran to qualify for this. So the easiest example I can give is the veteran has to have purchased their new home between January 1st and November 1st. They either had to have one or two things in place. Either have to have an existing exemption of a total and permanent status on a property that they're moving from. So if we take it in the example of 2025, the veteran purchases their property in July of 25. The previous property has an exemption in place on it because they moved after January 1st. It's an existing exemption on their previous property in 25. They apply and qualify for 2026. From July until December of 25, we can submit the information to the tax collector for them to get a prorated refund to get their benefit of their total and permanent exemption for the amount of time that they own the property. So in essence, they're able to become tax exempt for that portion of the year that they own the property on that 2025 tax bill. The other scenario is same thing, purchase between January 1st and November 1st. They do not receive a total and permanent exemption. However, they have an effective date of January 1st of the year they purchased the property. So in our scenario, we have a veteran who purchased in July of 25. They're filing and qualifying for 26. And according to their letter from Veteran Affairs, their effective date is, we'll say, December of 24. They would qualify to also get the prorated refund for the 2025 taxes for the time that they own the property. I know that's a little confusing and a lot of information, so if there's any questions, let me know. Another thing that a lot is unaware of, if a veteran has not received their information from VA yet, they can come in and they can apply prior to receiving their documentation. If for some reason they do not receive their documentation by our statutory deadline to process, we are required to deny the application. However, if they get the letter, we'll say 2 years from now, they can come back to our office with the letter from VA that shows an effective date that was given prior to when they applied, and the statute allows us to do a refund of taxes for the total and permanent veterans for an application that was denied due to not having the proper documentation from the Veteran Affairs. This is very new. This just started last year, 2025. So we now have a state form where total and permanent veterans who are trying to pre-qualify for homes, their mortgages and things like that, they can provide us with a letter so we can verify their information that they would qualify to be a total and permanent veteran. And we can provide them with this letter or this form, letting them know that they would qualify and they would be tax exempt to help in regards to the escrow analysis, the looking at what would be collected for escrow payments, because a lot of times that puts people over in regards to being able to qualify for their mortgages. Okay, so Amendment 5, which is new as well. This was the adjustment to the additional homestead exemption. So what this basically has done is it's taken the additional $25,000 exemption and it places the cap percentage, or the CPI, Consumer Price Index, on that $25,000. So this year for 2025, you may have noticed on your tax bills or your notice of proposed taxes that you had an additional $722 of exemption value. That was the Amendment 5 put into place. So the increase for 2025 was 2.9%. So it takes that $25,000 plus the 2.9%, which gives us the $722, which then gives us a total of $25,722 of additional homestead exemption that is applied. Now, if the values decrease, the same thing can happen. Those can go away, just like with portability, because remember, it's the difference between your market and your assessed value. So if your market value starts to drop, that gap is going to close and your Save Our Homes cap values are going to decrease. If they ever come to a point to where they meet, you will not see a Save Our Homes cap value. If we ever get to a point, and hopefully not, like we were in 26, 27, 20, or no, 08, where the values plummeted, you will not see a Save Our Homes cap. However, the flip side of that is if that does happen, that is where your starting point starts again if the values start to increase. So it does matter. So you have to keep in mind that the values that happen in the market also affect your caps, your exemption amounts, and so forth. So it plays a part in everything. Yes, sir.
What do you use to determine the valuation of a property? Does it have to be a valid appraisal or sale price? If sales price is lower than valuation or true value, how do you determine that?
This is more of a Gary thing. We have to switch things.
I got it. That's all right. So we look at market value. We take a look at all of the recorded sales that occur in the county throughout the year, and try to determine the value based off of that. So we are also mass appraisal, so it's not an individual appraisal on each property. We're looking at an area, we're going to look at the sales that occurred within that area. We don't go into each home, so that's why it's mass appraisal, so that there may be differences. You know, you may have a really nice home that's got a lot of upgrades, and the home next to it's the same model. They may be valued the same, because we don't go in and pick up those things. We're going to be looking at what's the exterior and those types of things. We do try to, our values should fall somewhere between 85 and 100% of what you could sell the property for, but that's not a hard and fast rule. Somebody may have gotten a good deal and their value may be over what they paid for it. And in the same thing, they may have just sold just to get rid of it. So we take those things into account.
From a commercial perspective.
Commercial, we look at, it depends on the type of property, but we also value commercial properties on the income approach. So we do send, every January, we send out requests for income and expense information to all the commercial properties within the county. Needless to say, we don't get a lot of response back. So we do look for market data, published income and expense information. The state used to also provide information that I think they stopped doing that last year. But we do base it on an income approach, and we also, depending on the type of property, it may also be a sales approach.
So if they don't respond, where do you get your information?
Published data. So there's
Website?
yes, there's CBRE, TREP, it's a number of different CoStar, a number of different public data that we get out there and we compile. So, that answer everybody's question? Okay.
On your notice of proposed taxes, just to show you where your additional exemption shows, and the additional CPI that's been added to that amount. Trust and homestead exemption. If I place my property in a trust, can I still have my homestead? The answer is yes. However, the trust has to give the person the rights to occupy the property and reside, which is our equitable title, or a beneficial interest for life. And this is according to the Florida statutes. It is very specific in regards to what qualifies for exemption. Of course, we always recommend people to discuss with their attorney if they're wanting to do this, and to make sure that the verbiage is included in order for them to continue the rights or to have the rights to file exemption. How do I know I have homestead? Every January, we send out a homestead renewal card. So this is our little postcards that we send out, and it shows all exemptions that are applied to the property. And it lets them know that it's automatically renewed every year unless something changes. So if they move, there's a change of ownership or something like that, they would need to notify our office so we can work with them accordingly.
There's no website to check it?
Our website,
Check it.
to check the exemptions?
Yeah, if you are on the website, can you check it?
Yes, it'll show the exemptions on the website as well. But we do this as a courtesy to let you know every January that the exemptions have been renewed. The 10% cap. This began in 2009. And this applies to value that is not used for homestead. So this is non-homestead applied, such as rental properties, commercial properties, vacant land. It's what is not used as residence. So there can be situations where both homestead and non-homestead use is on a property. So you have the 3% and the 10% caps applied. So it all is dependent upon the use of the property and what is the status of the permanent residence. And this 10% cap, keep in mind, does not apply to the schools. So the schools part of the tax bill, the school millage, is full market value. There is no 10% cap that gets applied to that.
Sorry, so if you have rental properties and then other type of properties, land, you put in a property and then you flip it, or whatever, but it takes a couple of years to do so, you can claim stuff on it?
It's not claiming exemption. This is a cap that gets placed on the value that your taxes are based on automatically. But anytime there's an ownership change, just like with any homestead properties, those reset, they get removed, and they start over at the current market.
So how do you apply for that?
You don't have to apply, it's automatic.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that 2% over the life, or is that yearly?
Is it what, I'm sorry?
Is that 10% cap over the life of when you're there for rentals and things? Or
Yes, as long as you own the property and there's no ownership change, or unless the legislation changes the statute. 10% each year.
And does it have to be under your personal name? Can it be under a corporation?
Rental properties, yes. Homestead properties, no. The 10% cap the ownership doesn't matter in regards to getting the 10% cap. However, if you change ownership, so if you go from yourself and you put it in an LLC, just because you're the LLC, that is a change of ownership, so it resets the cap.
I have a question. I know the mayor tried to get rid of the property taxes. Does this still apply?
There's a lot of discussion up in legislation, and there's no way for us to know any of that at this point. And
If it gets approved, does this apply, or is it just going to?
we wouldn't know at this point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Was there any other questions in this before I move forward? No? We do have a fraud program for exemption fraud, because as you know, if someone is claiming an exemption and they're not living there, that takes away from all of us. It takes away from our schools. It takes away from the things for that go to our county. So we do have a compliance team. We have a team of investigators who actively try to keep up with the exemption fraud, which is kind of difficult with the growth of the county and as many parcels as we have that have homestead. And now as well with Airbnb and other things that are out there, it does make it a little more difficult and trying. So we do have a fraud program where we allow people to make suggestions online, or we have a hotline that you can call. Certain things that we use to try to find the fraud is we use, look at all the return mail that comes in. Did they change their address? Has their mailing address changed? Court documents. There's a number of different avenues that we can, try to address and catch this fraud that is happening within the county. Here on the website, we also have a tax estimator. So I know a lot of times you have new homeowners and you're wanting to know what the estimated taxes are going to be on the home that they're looking to purchase with their homestead. You can go to our website and plug in the information, and it will give you a breakdown of everything, including the exemption, and we even have the capability to put the portability in there as well. So it will take all of those factors into effect. And now Gary gets to have this back.
All righty, well, thank you, Allison. And Allison is quite a resource in the office. She's very knowledgeable of all of the exemptions within the state, as is the rest of her department, the customer service and exemptions department. Anybody can help you. If you call in and ask for exemptions, they'll be able to answer any question that you would have. So continuing on, committed to serving our community. We've performed quite a few outreach events throughout the year. We have volunteer days where we have our employees go out to various places. I know that they go to the various libraries and help them. They've been out to the trail ride and a number of different volunteer days that they go out to. We promote a couple of donation drives throughout the year. We do a school supply drive. We do a toy drive at Christmas. We do a hygiene drive to supply the different shelters throughout the community. We participate in a number of events and parades. And we have lunch and learns similar to this. And if you're interested in anything, Rachel is in the back and she'd be happy to go ahead and get with your organization and set something up on a variety of different topics that we have. Okay. Any questions here? This was some of the things that we had gone over. All of our information you can find on our website. And again, if you would like to schedule something, you can get with Rachel. She is in the back, and I'll leave that up so you can get her information. And any questions, any additional questions on anything that we had gone over? Just real quick on the question about the property tax, eliminating property taxes. There's at least a half a dozen proposals out there. We don't know which ones they're even considering, what's getting pushed through right now or not. All we are going to end up doing is having to administer whatever it is that they pass. And at this point, we have no idea. So it's not like we're trying to not take a side on one or the other. We don't know. We don't know what's going to be out there. It just really depends on what the legislature is looking at and trying to push through. But any other questions anybody have? So we do want to get a picture. So Rachel, you want to? Who do you want? Who would you like up?
One more time, and then for anybody who's interested, if you want to go up to the front, we'll take a quick photo, and then I guess we're famous on social media.